What's up? This is Rebel Radio.
What up? What up? This is DJ Newmark.
This is Peanut Butter Wolf.
It's your boy. It's okay.
Keep checking out Rebel Radio.
Rebel Radio.
This is Rebel Radio.
We're in the place right here. Rebel Radio is going down.
Would you say Rebel Radio?
Oh, wait. Let's do it again.
Rebel Radio.
What's up, Rebels? Welcome back to another episode of Rebel Radio. I'm your host, Josh Levine. My guest today is Zen Freeman. This dude is a great DJ with an amazing career. He does private corporate events for folks like Cartier, Louis XIII, Cognac, Master and Dynamic headphones. He does clubs all over the world, including the XS in Vegas. He plays festivals. He's just got he's everywhere. And he's now starting his own festival next month, or here at the end of June, the RHA Festival in Puerto Vallarta. Looks like a beautiful setting and an amazing lineup of great house music. I would definitely be there if I wasn't going to be traveling Europe at that time. But you should get there. You should go to rhafestival.com and check out the lineup. It's Green Velvet, Dimitri from Paris, a bunch of great acts. Get some tickets, get there, and let us know how it is. But first, let's get into our interview with Zen Freeman right after the EDM.com track of the week.
Suffocating in this atmosphere, the only thing I can say when I see you walking away from me is, baby, please won't you stay.
All right, that was Exhale and Tiga with Some Type of Way, your EDM.com track of the week. And now let's hear from Zen Freeman. Well, let's learn about it. I'm excited. Anyway, I'm excited to dig into all of it. But so I always like to start at the beginning. Tell me about, do you remember the first record you ever bought?
I definitely started DJing off someone else's collection. The person being my mum.
Yeah.
And that was like going around the house and finding old record players. And then there was one old one, and then one I think I kind of got from my brother's room and started trying to wire them, belt-driven decks. So I just started DJing off Beatles songs and trying to mix like Beatles with Bob Marley and basically Rolling Stones, anything I could find that. And I used to just kind of pick them because I like the look of the, the album
Just
cover.
at home.
Yeah, just at home. And then I kind of stash, slowly like kind of build my own collection that basically I didn't have any money at all. Yeah. So it would just be like hoping that they wouldn't, Sal, where's my record? Trying to keep it in my room as soon as possible.
Of course,
the first record I think I bought, honestly, was Adamant, Stand and Deliver or something crazy like that, and then a Michael Jackson song, and then it was like the mixing and stuff that I was just really interested in the technology and the science of doing everything. And
who first introduced you to DJing?
Well, I technically I think I was just about to turn 15. I was probably still 14 years old. And I got hold of Gemini belt drive turntables, 2-channel Gemini mixer.
Yeah.
And that was inspired by Pete Tong on the radio, And then when I was 15, I think my main inspiration was like a cross between Paul Oakenfold, who was like kind of like the first pop.
Sure.
Played Wembley Stadium and did the whole, Pete Tong, and then when I was 15, I had a fake ID so I could get into a club where Sasha was a resident. And that was my real like kind of inspiration for for wanting to be a DJ.
I mean, those are pretty amazing mentors to start out with.
And it's you don't realize how lucky you are growing up in in England, because all we're gonna do is like talk someone into driving you to the club. When you're 15 years old, you can do anything you want.
Yeah, absolutely. And so were you like dance music was obviously so was everywhere over there. Whereas
Yeah.
here at the time it was very
Yeah.
much underground. So were you just like a dance music fan from the beginning?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was totally hooked. For me, growing up, I was very social. Sports were one of the most important things, but I think when I got to about 15, I started to realize that probably wasn't going to become a professional soccer player. So I kind of became this like vinyl junkie, and I would, when I was 12, 13, 14, I would record Pete Tong's show.
Yeah.
Definitely when I was 15, I would record the show anyway, because I was probably out on a Friday night. And I would record it and like make lists of all the songs that he was playing and the ones that I liked. And then I would have like an in with the guy at the record store. So every Saturday morning I would get in and I would have like a little pile of records that were already put aside for me.
Yeah.
And they were like test pressings and, and like
Sure.
good stuff that,
Yeah.
I mean, literally like I was lucky that I was getting some of the stuff that Sasha was playing on Friday night at Shelley's in Stoke-on-Trent. And then I was getting hold of the song, the record, thinking, yes, that's it, that's the one. And that's a really interesting thing because I used to like make mixtapes and play, house parties back then. And it was totally your sound, no one could,
Yeah.
sure. It was like inspired by back then, Dave Seaman and Pete Tong and Paul Oakenfold and Sasha and Digweed and but it was quite hard for, out of your whole crew, no one else could recreate that sound.
Sure. Yeah.
Unless they stole your records.
Yeah, sure. Which I think now is a lot easier to do, right?
Yeah.
You could
now
Shazam
it's-
somebody's set and
yeah.
download everything and play it tomorrow, right?
Yeah, I mean, just music sharing, digital music.
Yeah. But yeah, back then I've talked to a bunch of DJs that, people used to hide their records, the labels, or they would,
Yeah.
there's this constant hunt for
Well, it was just about being, back then it was about being a collector and it was building hype and, you would, even a big song would come out originally, DJ promo only.
Yeah, of course.
There would be this whole kind of, strategy into, building hype on this thing. And now it's just, when you look at, a big song that comes out on a, I'm invited to all these kind of DJ pools and promo pools with bigger labels. But when you look on the blogs and the DJ pools where you can you just pay a fee and you can download.
Yeah.
They're getting them the same day, if
Sure.
not the day before.
Yeah.
So there's not really a lot of like anticipation or hype when it comes to like getting. You've almost got to make it. If you want to play it first, you got to kind of make it yourself or know the person who's making it.
Yeah. Which is what people are doing, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yourself included.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was the first gig you played?
Well, the first ever gig that I got paid, I was 15, and it was at the time I was living at my mum's house in Leicestershire, and I got a gig at this club called Flaming Colossus, and it was a big club, like they would get like a Paul Oakenfold, and I just had a good 2-hour opening slot there, and I think I got paid £50 to do it, which I very quickly put back into the vinyl.
Sure, of course.
Times 5.
Yeah.
And then always just at that, I was really into fashion at the time and, college and sports and blah, blah, blah. It kind of, and it was became quite an expensive hobby. And then cut to, I played a few gigs in Tokyo when I was kind of traveling, and I played a lot of gigs in Sydney, and that inspired me a lot because 16, 17 years ago when I was living in Sydney, that was like the birth of that whole, I met the guy, guys who became Panau and Empire of the Sun and that cool, sexy, electro, and, so I was kind of playing, I was out there kind of as a kind of working there as a model and DJing in clubs a bit at night and throwing my own little parties and stuff, but it was a really, really great scene. Then I came to LA I went to London, moved to LA, and just kind of, I met I met Adam Goldstein. I met Adam Braven. Became quite good friends with all those guys, and just was like, wow, man, what these guys, it's amazing. But it just was completely foreign to me.
So how was it like?
My first actual paid gig in LA was for Red Bull, and then I did a couple of things on my own. It was actually it was DJing at Tokyo, the play, like the Japanese
on
club
Hollywood.
on Kwanga.
Yeah.
It went from there to doing a July 4th party myself that I did with Pantera Sarah.
Cool.
And then Red Bull, like the music, asked me to do something else, and then they asked me to do a Weinstein party.
Nice. Yeah.
It was actually paid quite well. I dressed up in a suit.
Yeah.
And kind of very quickly it kind of went from there.
Yeah. Is it so coming from London, and obviously you went through Australia, but the DJ scene, how did the DJ scene compare in London to when you got here?
Completely different. It was almost as if like in my not in my head, because I was so involved in music and fashion, and probably wasn't as big, but it was almost as if like it is now. It's kind of in the 90s it just boomed. It was like it was called house music, but
right.
Basically the same thing that kind of happened here. And then and then I grew up being 15, 16, 17, 18 years old, being really dedicated and into like club culture and traveling the country, not just just going down to London and going to a decent club, going up north. And then it kind of all this this genre splinter came out, and then all of a sudden it's like people wanted dubstep, and they wanted it's kind of almost what happened here, but just here to a much more bigger level. And I think maybe it's just because of the social media and the technology, it just blew up a lot bigger. Now it's a lot more. When you go to EDC and you look at almost like 100 meters of LED wall with all these high definition and kids on whatever they're taking these days. I kind of went through the whole underground thing and just saw it explode. So when I Tokyo, I kind of played a few gigs. It wasn't really, I was busy working there. Sydney, I had a bit more time to kind of really take in the music, and there was just amazing, like there was such cool music out there. So when I came to LA, I was actually quite shocked, Right. It was quite didn't really kind of gave up overnight. Sure. It was like almost like heard AM play one night and just heard him destroy, kill it, this place. I'm just like, I almost like bowed. It's like, over to you, take it away. Like, it's just something that I can't do. And then eventually, just kind of was obviously, I used to go to Amoeba and buy a couple of records here and there and had enough to play. Then I think, obviously I had some technics in like the spare room. My wife, it was still just a hobby. And then I think when my wife was, I guess we were like getting engaged, thinking about having kids, and and then it's kind of strangely enough, like it's almost like when my kind of DJ career in LA took off again.
Yeah. Was it? I mean, now your resume. Like, we could spend the whole hour just reading all the great clubs and festivals and brands that you work with, and like, I mean, but I guess the question is, did it jump off for you kind of right away and easily, or were there moments at the beginning where you're like struggling to break through, and did you ever think you were giving up?
Well, I think the easiest part of doing what I do is that I kind of never really started doing it for a career. I kind of when in Sydney, I kind of had it was more of a secondary income.
Yeah.
When I moved to Hollywood, I kind of had all these aspirations to do different things, and it was like DJing was almost like still a hobby.
Yeah.
So it kind of made it easy, and it was always quite, it never really felt like work.
Was there a moment where you sort of realized, like, oh shit, this is my career?
Well, what was I doing at the time? I'd done a little bit of like, I'd moved here, did a couple of like, I actually came here to do a modeling campaign for this this brand in the UK called Mulberry.
Okay.
And I came here and I started working in. I started doing a little bit of modeling, a little bit of acting, and then yeah, I was always like busy doing stuff, you know, I don't know. I even got at one point I got a job at Ron Herman, just to make a bit of extra cash and stuff in there.
Sure.
And I think just when I looked at what, this is so long ago, I mean, this is like, literally at the time it was like Mark Ronson had kind of left the scene a little bit back to New York. Sam Ronson was very much a part of the scene.
Yeah.
And there was, there was Adam 12 and AM.
Mm-hmm.
And they were all they all had their kind of niche in a way. But there was one thing that I always thought it was kind of like, sometimes there was these Oscar after parties where I'd show up in a skinny suit, skinny tie back then.
Yeah.
Just I wasn't really playing music for people to dance to. I was just playing like really cool atmosphere music, and it was making people, and I was mixing the songs progressively as I was taught to play house, like from, I was just, instead of like a house DJ starts at 120, finishes at 130, I was going into a room and playing music, like really pretty music at 85 beats per minute, and then mixing another one at 86 beats per minute in the same key, and then doing these relative key changes and mixing the odd a cappella on a lot, and then kind of playing like what was to me was known as like early doors, like Balearic music from Ibiza, but with vocals and doing all these kind of, and it was just something that at the time I think was, I was just doing it because I was having fun doing it, but it kind of was, feel like I kind of pioneered, I made it kind of nice and easy for people to listen to. And I think some of the other guys who were definitely like, there was kind of more the American style of scratch, battle style.
Yeah.
I just thought it was a better fit for what I was doing at the time. So, and I also like very quickly went from doing my own night at Tokyo, playing a couple of film festival parties, to like being like, like literally over like the space of a summer, I was all of a sudden doing Toronto Film Festival, Sundance Film Festival, Cannes Film Festival.
Yeah. Being
flown around by like billionaire guys and doing like yacht parties in St. Bart's, and
sure.
And then I was like, holy shit, and I literally like kind of cut off. I'd been working for Jeffrey Best at Best Events, doing production on some big events. Who I have a lot to thank. He really did kind of in a short amount of time was quite a big mentor in my life.
What did you learn from Jeffrey?
Just about. I think more business and, the production side and like how to, building decks and building, I think meeting a lot of just how he deals with brands and clients and things, I think was when I started DJing, he actually really liked what I was doing and put me on the books as like the Best Events DJ as well. That was a big step up as well.
Yeah.
And thanks to half a dozen, event producers like that, it kind of springboarded my DJ career quite quickly. And I think it's just right time, right place. And I think I was at the time, like I'd kind of been a model and I'd worked in fashion, and it was quite easy for me to go and like DJ for Gucci and
sure.
So yeah, it was good. I was really right time, right place. I think a little moderate amount of talent. I'm just kidding. And just doing something at the time that people weren't really doing. People weren't really DJing music at events and clubs that you actually listen to in your car,
right.
Or at home when you're chilling out, or it was all like kind of floor fillers,
absolutely,
mashup,
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm fascinated with the corporate DJ thing, right? And I have a few friends that have made great careers doing those kind of gigs. And then, a lot of guys that beat up the clubs every night. And I love the fact that, you've sort of played both sides of that. But I wonder, like, how is it different? And how do you, like, let me find the question. But, like, I think, if you're trying to make your way through the clubs, right, it's like you slog it out and you build your name little by little, and you build your following on social or your email list or whatever, and you get slightly bigger and bigger club gigs, and you try to get a festival. Like, I kind of get that path. So tell me about the corporate side. Like, how do you build that?
Yeah, well, I think firstly, I kind of almost have these like two different personalities. Even when I tour, when I DJ in nightclubs, I never take my laptop to a festival or to a club. I take 3 USB sticks.
Yeah.
The set is in my head. There's, 10 or 12 lanes that I can take the set down. Kind of early doors, mid to high tempo, and I put the set together using Pioneer Record Box. I use as many Pioneer CDJs as the client will rent for me, basically.
Yeah.
Or as many as there are channels on the mixer. When I do events, it's I take a sound card and a terabyte of music on a laptop, and I think it's just more about them than it is you. You know, they want someone who's. I've always been, I'm not, I like to have a drink, but I'm not, not at an event.
Sure.
I want a couple of glasses of champagne just to, to feel like the crowd, I guess. But I think it's more just rapport with the client, and they want someone who's reliable, who's on time. And sometimes, I've done, I guess, I don't know, hundreds and hundreds of the things now.
Yeah.
There's so many, I was in Aspen the other day, and I got to do a sound check at 6:30 at night. I was supposed to come on at 10, and the client just said, the event planner, help, the client hates the music that's playing in the restaurant now. Can you come on now? And it's like, I played 6 hours or 7 hours or something, I walked into a gig for a big corporation, and I walked in, and the client said, "Oh, it's an '80s party," and that was actually when Serato was kind of newish as well. And I remember then, I used to carry like a box of records,
Sure,
and a laptop as well, just for the transition.
Sure.
When we were all still on Technics, and you could flick on and off. So, I guess being being open for creative input from your client, I think has a lot to do with it. And very much as a DJ and an artist, I never play my own music at corporate gigs. It just doesn't work.
Sure.
I always play at least 4 or 5 of my tracks when I play at Excess in Vegas, or and then other times, sometimes if it's a festival, then I'll play like 12 of mine and 4 of someone else's, and so it just
it seems like it's just a different thing. And I talk to a lot of guys. I think it comes down to sort of your mission statement, if you will. Like, I have great friends who are great DJs that they just want to play what they want to play, and they want to share that with the world, and that's kind of why they do it. I think Adam 12 is a great example of that. Like, I know he does some corporates.
Adam's kind of like the connoisseur, isn't he? The LA connoisseur of music,
Yeah, he's kind of like, come hear what's in my head.
Yeah.
And if you're a guy like me, like, that works because I love what's in his head.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then you have other people that are sort of like, they just have a different approach to it. And so, like some people, like, they're very much, they aim to please. Or a lot of the radio guys that I know, like, they have a lot less freedom in what they get to play.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And they're okay, and you got to be okay with that.
Yeah.
And
a lot of it is where you source your music from, and I love Matthew Schreier is a good example, because he spends so much time digging, and we do a music swap sometimes, and he sends me great stuff, and it's so ahead of the curve.
Is that right?
But then for him, it's like his world. Then he could be put in a situation where he has to play commercial.
Yeah.
And what in his head is commercial is not commercial to
of course.
Of course. So it's tough.
So with saying that, and you come from the era where you had to dig for records and get to the store and all that. So what's the last record that got you really excited?
I'm kind of like a weird old disco head. So and
Yeah.
I just and that's my one thing. I just
Like old disco, new disco, all of it?
both. Yeah, both.
Me too.
I actually I saw Harvey at Rumors
Mm.
play, and I got really inspired by some of the stuff that he played, and kind of went on this mission.
Yeah.
And he was playing some like minimal 80s, like new wave, deep stuff. I don't know. It was, and that kind of, and it's amazing how much stuff is like completely undiscovered. You know, like
Yeah.
you can kind of find it on iTunes, or you have to go to maybe Beatport or Phonica and Piccadilly Records and these cool things. But some of these songs, they're great songs, and they just have like no ratings, no downloads,
Yeah.
no, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, for me at the moment, the kind of obscurity kind of gets me a bit more excited, just because, you know, yeah, sometimes I hear, you know, a really cool, you know, Kygo track or something, but second you download it, then
Yeah.
you turn on the radio and you turn this and you go to the club. And, you know,
Absolutely.
I think, yeah, I was listening to Kiss FM on the car here, and I think they played the same song 3 times in
Sure.
30 minutes. You know,
Yeah.
on the
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's the way there's only getting more of that.
yeah. But you know, it's actually amazing how long it still takes to dig the music, because
Was so much more of it.
before there was more, there was a target,
Mhm.
you know, and you found that target,
Yeah.
and you could just milk it, and everything, you know, you could milk it for everything it's worth. But now it's just everything's so spread thin,
Sure.
you know, and it's like any kid can make a song on a laptop,
Right.
you know, now it's like it's almost found it. You can't. It's hard to discover new music because there's just so much of it, you know.
Absolutely. And I think, you know, it was a lot easier to kind of stick within the genre rules
Yeah,
until recently, right? That and I know that, you know, great DJs have always kind of broken those rules, but you could kind of make the job easier by just saying, like, I'm going to stay in this section
Yeah.
of the store or the site or whatever.
yeah.
And now, like, that seems
Plus,
just all
artists
out the window.
target different genres for sales now
Yeah.
as well. So you know,
Sure.
you can only put out, you know, if you look at Beatport as well, like they're constantly, the genres are changing so much.
Yeah.
You know, when you know, it's like what we were progressive house in the UK is known as is very different to
It's
what
totally different.
you know. And I think they figured that one. You know, like for a long time, Beatport had Big Room was progressive house,
Right.
and then they finally kind of figured it out. You know, but,
Yeah. Yeah, or deep house. Like,
Yeah.
I talk to my friends who are in their 20s who they talk about deep house, and it's like not what I think of as deep
Yeah.
house. You know,
Yeah, no, it's true.
you know, a lot of DJs talk about reading the room, and then that's this sort of like mystical skill to be able to pick up what's coming back from you,
Yeah.
you know, from the crowd. So, how do you do that? Given that you play so many different kinds of rooms, right? That you know,
Yeah,
how does
I
that
think
work?
A lot of it is kind of organization, to be honest. I mean, I'm considered versatile DJ because, you know, I was doing, let's go. I mean, say for example, Vegas. You know, it's like I started when Paul Oakenfold convinced the Palms into doing. You know, AM did the Friday night. I think Z-Trip was his guest, and it was killing it. You know, Fire Machine. So Paul Oakenfold went in on a Saturday night, and I was there from the very beginning, and just smashed it. You know, he had Cirque du Soleil performers and the Fire Machine, and I think his guests were Armin van Buuren and Benny Benassi and Marcus Schultz, and like the whole he brought the trance world into Vegas for the first time, which was a big pioneer move, such as he did in Ibiza as well. You know, in the late '80s. So I kind of went from, for just an example, for Vegas, I went from the Palms to Marquee to, then I went on jump ship and went to work with Calvin Harris when he went over to Hakkasan and Wet Republic, and then Excess. So this is just a long, you know, I feel like such a great story. I've seen Vegas go from like literally like on the EDM meter 0 to, you know,
off the charts. Yeah.
and it's, for me, it's like it's very obvious what's going to happen. I've always been lucky. I've always played in like a great room, great people, great sound. I know exactly where I'm going to go. And I'll have. I confidently could walk in with a couple of hundred songs on a USB. There, it's all about letting the production do itself, taking WAV files, not using MP3 files, all the obvious stuff like that, 'cause it's a big room.
Yeah.
When I play, anything from like high-profile weddings or fashion parties, or it's just about being organized, being ready to kind of take risks, doing mashups on the fly, like taking relative key songs, and and doing things that kind of get me excited, and then that go relays onto the dance floor.
Yeah.
But yeah, a lot of it is, now it's like how you organize your music and having different, having floor fillers ready, having more obscure stuff, having, obviously now you can even just, having kind of playlists set where you've just got everything's done by tempo and key.
Yeah.
Mixed in key was a big game changer because you basically, it almost allows you not to rehearse your sets.
Sure.
And I haven't really rehearsed my sets for probably almost a decade now.
Is that right?
Pretty much, yeah. Because I know, or maybe, but, I don't know, 7-8 years. Now, if you scan everything through Pioneer software, you'll know if the beat's on the grid.
Yeah.
If it's moving around, you can fix it. Any kind of software reads iTunes. If you just keep everything kind of organized in iTunes, then you can pretty much go wherever you want. Like I said, I think before my laptop's up to a terabyte of pretty much of like singles.
Sure.
I had to dump all the albums a long time ago just to make room.
Yeah.
So it's just, so now, it's a little bit crazy. I'm not the most organized of people, but...
Sound pretty organized.
Oh, thanks. And even things about looking at people's ages and looking what shoes they're wearing and looking how they style, thinking, like really, all the things that you think, you try and be, you try and read the crowd as well as you possibly can, even just to see what they're in the mood for as well. A lot of the times, like you don't want to ever throw the kitchen sink at someone that just wants to talk about a movie and sip champagne,
Yeah, sure. Yeah, no, that's an amazing skill, I think, to be that observant and to be able to react that quickly.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. I think that was just, being a shy, observant kid, it's weird how that your influences growing up and you don't really know how they're going to affect you as an adult, but
sure.
But yeah, definitely like being, not being selfish and, thinking about your client having a great experience as opposed to you being like, party, woohoo,
Yeah, sure. What about, does your experience as a DJ make you a better producer?
Well, I think personally, there's the obvious story is you take someone like Calvin Harris, basically, who made that amazing album on his laptop in his home studio in Dumfries, Scotland, and then all of a sudden he's kind of a pop star. So he tried the band, Calvin Harris in the band, and I think at the time it was it's expensive to.
Sure.
So
I love that record, though.
Yeah, it's amazing. So he kind of taught himself to DJ very quickly. First of all, he tried doing on Ableton, and I think when the Pioneer 2000 range came through, the Nexus range came through, record box, you couldn't really beat it. So I think he learned how to DJ in order to tour, whereas, a lot of guys, especially from LA, we were all, I was always a vinyl DJ first. I kind of learnt about, the sounds and the, the basic fundamentals of DJing. Then I learnt how to produce, So I think it's the difference is DJs are very much like instant gratification people, and like finding that mix, and whereas a producer is definitely, it's delayed gratification. So, I think it all helps, you know. I mean, I think you're probably better off to, like, you know, any advice out there for someone that wants to be a superstar, they should definitely go to music school, go
Is that
to
right?
production school, learn those. Then I think the DJing maybe is probably would be an easier way to learn that, you know, at a later stage.
If your kids wanted to get into DJing, would you start them on vinyl?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I mean, I've got a pair of Technics that honestly aren't always out on the main, you know, on my main setup, because I have 4 CDJs set up, but they've played on them, you know, they've played on the Technics, and I think it's the best thing. I'd probably just the same as you know, when I really wanted to get like my mixing tight, I would just buy 2 copies of a record and just flawlessly kind of go in between the two, and then start, you know, I would kind of make little marks and things like that. But yeah, I mean, I think it's the way to go for kids, maybe. Yeah.
I just think, I mean, you know, there's so much talk about technology, the negative side of technology and DJing, right? That makes it maybe too easy for people without really learning the skill to just, you know, and the same with music production, right? There's a lot of, I'm not making this up, like there's a lot of that discussion. I think what's so interesting, what you're saying is, it's just about how it can, for people that do have the skill, you can do so much more, right? That it can make the job easier, or it can make it, you know, that much better.
Yeah.
Once you know what you're doing.
I mean, learning how to DJ, I think there's all the, you know, I think to keep it, you know, when you want 2 channels on a mixer, you don't need 4.
Right. Yeah.
You want to learn about the low end and the mid and the top, you know, and basically, like, not even mixing in key, mixing in kind of relative key, you know, like exploring and making, like doing relative key changes on the mixes, so you get these unusual kind of sounds, and, you know, learning how to, like, you know, mostly, you know, for me it was like I was always, you know, like maxing the kick drum but making it perfect, you know, like perfect, and you know, 2 kick drums in exactly the same key, and you know, making the, you know, and kind of balancing the bass as it was coming out, and doing it like a 2-minute mix. And for me, I kind of learned playing progressive house. Yeah, I mean, my kids love to come into the studio when they hear music in the back, you know. But they kind of, I just find on a CDJ there's lots of distractions. There's too many flashing buttons, and, you know, and they do. But also, you know, when my daughters had played some, I just walked out of a Cartier event with a Donna Summer track that was, so I got it back, put it on, and my daughter just wants to scratch away and not, you know, she's a little bit, you know, I don't know.
My son's the same.
Know, she's a little bit heavy-handed, so.
Of course. No, my son's the same way. It's amazing that he hasn't broken any of the gear yet, but yeah, I bought a 2-channel mixer for him to learn to play around on, because, like, although all he wants to do is to use the effects. Yeah. And just make crazy noises.
I think there's some good software you can just buy on, you know, what, DJ Pro on Apple for $20 or whatever it is, and just let them have a go on that on an old laptop, and you know, maybe, you know, I don't know. I think Technics is probably the best way. Get some old styluses on there so that they can.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's good. It'd be I always think for my son it'd be just a fun way to grow up, playing birthday parties and whatever, just having fun. You know?
Yeah. My I went from kind of Saturday mornings in the record store doing mixes for the school bus journey, where there was like captive audience of like 50 kids.
Nice.
We'd be on the back, and we'd like send the tape down, and they'd put it on. And then I started doing all people's, like, how, you know, birthday parties at school and school discos and things like that, from, you know, and
so
then
cool.
kind of went, and then clubs that I would, like, always get ripped off by some promoter, or, you know, like, hey man, I'll give you 50, bring your friends and do this. You'd play, and then you'd come off, and the headline, you know, it was just fun, you know, back then it was, you know, it took a long time, like it took a long time to figure out the business side of it.
Sure. But those probably good lessons in there.
Yeah.
So what's the goal now?
Well, I live in LA family man. You know, I'm kind of working on. I put a song out with Defected and Azuli. Macy Gray was the featuring artist on it. So music wise, I've kind of got we've got a staggered release with Azuli and Defected. We're putting the singles out on Azuli, and we're putting the singles releasing them on the Defected compilations. Defected in the House, Defected in Ibiza, Defected Miami. I'm also kind of working on a side project of more kind of this like 80s synth pop that I haven't actually figured the artist name, but I'll probably put it out under another name. Yeah. And I've been working with people like Macy Gray and Mr. Hudson and Boy George.
Wow.
And a lot of like kind of female writers who have got a good writing career. I've signed by Warner's, but they're not actually singers. But I've got some really great songs. I'm not sure if they'll get re-sang by other artists, or I'd actually quite like to release them as is.
Cool.
So on the music side, there's kind of I'm working on kind of like a pop project. Still very much into making house music. I've been making a load of like kind of deep Burning Man inspired stuff.
Is that right?
As well, so music wise, like kind of 3 avenues there that I feel quite confident about.
Is the plan to move more into production, or is it both?
Well, I mean, DJing's always been my bread and butter. It's amazing that how much longer I've always spent doing production than actually DJing, though. So just trying to fit, balance, trying to be as proactive as possible. But, I also want to wake up when the kids get up. I want to eat breakfast with them. I want to take my 2 kids to school every day when I'm, the 3 or 4 days a week that I'm actually at home. I don't know if it really does, to be honest. I don't really think it helps my career that much.
It does, like, producing doesn't help your DJ career?
I think I just have so many clients in the fashion world.
Yeah.
They
don't
people
care.
Like, if I'm hired to DJ for Elon Musk or Karl Lagerfeld or Baz Luhrmann, and, they don't listen to house music, or, they just want a guy who's, who can play good music, basically. Yeah. So I put out a song called Switch on Calvin Harris's on his label, Fly Eye, and he played it quite a lot, and I think I got a lot of traction then, and almost like I was kind of doing a few festivals off the back of that. I did a track with Aaron Paul that called Dance, BITCH, that actually charted in the US. It charted on iTunes. Yeah. And then then it definitely gave me some traction. But I just think there's people throwing so much music out on the internet, and I don't know. I mean, I think you've really got to you've either got to be like a Calvin Harris or an Avicii or Chainsmokers, and really kind of get into that field. For me, I don't know if it's a sell. I just really like making house, putting music out on Defected, and it doesn't really affect me that much. Maybe maybe in 3 or 4 years it might, if we consistently stick to one label. I've kind of always bounced between labels, and I started with Paul Oakenfold and Perfected and Armada, and then went to Fly Eye, and now with Defected. So we shall see. I think the smart people are the ones that just start their own label.
Yeah. Is that in the cards?
Time management. I don't know. It's almost like I don't know. Yeah, I guess so. But it's also kind of a bit risky, and it takes a lot of time. You need to start hiring staff, and
it's quite different.
For me, it's just I kind of like having someone who's Defected are one of the oldest and most prestigious house dance labels in the UK. Yeah, they have good distribution, and they're cool, and they're easy to work with. So for me, I'm quite happy.
So if as you said, the DJing is bread and butter, especially the corporate stuff, and the putting out music doesn't really help that much. Why do it?
Just because I like doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and I think that's I think doing, like I said, doing those fashion parties, the clients don't really care what,
Sure.
Yeah,
they never heard of Defected. I'm sure.
Yeah, of course. I love playing big room gigs, and I've played from, I've done I've played San Francisco Town Hall to like 85,000 people, the West Hollywood Carnival to, it's technically it's 500,000 people over 8 or 9 city blocks.
Crazy.
But, the main stage, I get to play, I'm playing to a couple 100,000 people, I think. It's fun, like playing festivals, and I think that you have to. I think if there was it definitely helps. If there was no music out there,
Sure.
then,
For the festivals, I think you have to.
Yeah, and I do, and I do really thoroughly enjoy doing it. So now I'm just kind of toying with, with the sound, and I think literally I'm probably going to come up with keep this my artist name the same. And I'm going to come up with two new artist names, start pumping out a lot more music, and see how that takes me.
That's cool.
What's
the best festival that we don't know about?
Definitely not Fire Festival. You know what? I mean, I went to, I don't know. I mean, Coachella for me, I went to the year 2, and I went back for, I've been probably, 12 times or, a lot basically.
Me too.
And it's such an amazing festival, and I'm a huge fan of Palm Springs. I think it's beautiful. It just grew a little bit too big, from seeing it.
Yeah.
But, my wife actually went the first year and then kind of didn't go back as much as I did. There's so many, I went, I think Coachella was definitely the easiest for us to get to because we live in LA.
Sure. Yeah.
People fly from London and Sydney to go, and,
Yeah.
a lot of people fly from New York to go to Coachella. I don't know, now it's getting a bit big, but I've seen them. I went to the first EDC in Vegas. That's just maybe too full on now. I went to the first Further Future Festival, and it was actually I went with Habitas. I was invited through those guys, and their hospitality they do is amazing. And but it just was like it's almost like it's on a reservation in on the first one was on the opposite side of Vegas,
right?
So you could fly in or you could drive through, and it was like another hour, kind of on the north side. But it was just almost like a bit like trying too hard to be like Burning Man, like making it just basically driving as far as you could possibly do it.
I think there's a lot of that.
And then if it wasn't for the Habitas guys, I would have been, I stayed in this amazing TP and air conditioned. We ate, grilled salmon and couscous and amazing salads and drank great wine and but I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it's such beautiful in California. The countryside is amazing, and like Coachella, there's so many polo fields in California. It's like why does it have to be in Palm Springs? So
I mean, I've been I think 15 times out of 18 or whatever, and every year I find myself looking up at the palm trees and the mountains and the stages and the Ferris wheel and just like I'm blown away.
Yeah.
Again.
Yeah.
Every
I mean,
time.
It's amazing what they've done. They've been, it's obviously been a slow build, and but yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's at the moment everyone seems to be on lightning in a bottle, and I'm kind of looking on that, and to me, I don't know.
Yeah.
I think, and that kind of gets me round to it, and this is how the festival in Punta Mita was born. I just, I've lived in LA now for 16 years, and I maybe not that, probably about 10 years ago, I kind of started going down there to DJ at a wedding, and then there's surf in Punta Mita. There's like amazing surf, There's great tennis, there's golf, and and I, as I got older, I was always, I kind of play for all these brands, and I've got some amazing clients, and they're always, I just stayed at the Jerome all weekend DJing in Aspen, and I was staying at the St. Regis in Mexico City playing for Cartier, and thanks to very luckily, like, I've got to see the whole world. But for me, one of my favorite places is Punta Mita. You got 5 flights leaving every morning from LAX.
Yeah.
Delta, American, Southwest options, cheap options.
Sure.
You can get down there between $80 and $250
Yeah.
each way.
Wow.
And yeah, I just kind of found this little gem, and that I think there's some notables that you'll see in the press sometimes that have got houses in Puerto Vallarta. You land at Puerto Vallarta. It's a 2 hour 50-minute flight. And then wherever you go, for me, I kind of prefer Punta Mita because it's got the Four Seasons and the St. Regis on the same complex. There's 16 apartment complexes behind the gates.
Yeah.
So we, my business partner and I basically he's a big tennis player, and he's been going down there for a long time.
Oh, yeah?
I started going down there from I actually did a few private parties, and then went down there for surfing and played Sam Nazarian's wedding down there at the Four Seasons. It was amazing, and just always thought like everything is so luxurious down there. It's so beautiful. It's got it's not all like if you want the resort thing, if you like driving around in the golf cart, eating Michelin star food, then stay at the St. Regis. The town is great. It's beautiful. It's got the downtown. It's got surf shops, and it's got all the a little bit touristy, but it's still small. We just loved it down there, but always thought that there was just at 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah,
Everything
nothing
closes.
going
There's
on.
nothing,
Sure.
but it's kind of got this it's got this amazing feeling that it must have been like going to Ibiza in the 80s when it was just dead.
Yeah.
So we made friends with the St. Regis. The rates, it's technically low season.
Yeah.
But the weather for the RHA Fest is basically the indigenous word for flowing water. So we booked all of our favorite DJs, Claptone and Dimitri from Vegas, Green Velvet, Purple Disco Machine, Cats and Dogs,
Great.
So it's like sexy house music, which goes, and we did a deal with, we very quickly kind of overgrew out of the Four Seasons, or doing it downtown Punta Mita. So we're next door, as a very kind of luxurious yacht club, and it happens to have 5 helipads that come out on the peninsula, completely surrounded by the sea.
Yeah.
And then there's a 4-star resort, all inclusive, that kids can they can book rooms there for $99 each.
Oh, no way.
To a room, drink as much and eat as much all day.
Brilliant.
And then for my crowd, I think we basically booked out the St. Regis. Then now the overflow is going to we're a month away, so the overflow is now going to the Four Seasons, which is actually one of my favorite hotels as well.
Yeah.
And it basically, we went for it, and we paid we've basically, we had some help from, agencies here, and just going back on the Fire Festival, we've paid all the artists.
Sure.
We're putting them all up. Got an amazing sound system coming in from Guadalajara.
Cool.
Mexicans is high tech stuff. They've got it's a very I just played the Cartier event in Mexico City, and the sound system and the tech there was amazing. The hotel was great. They got their shit together on sound systems. We've got this huge, big LED, a lot of LED. Amazing stage.
I mean, that sounds amazing.
So so we're going for it. And there's tons of places for people to stay. The flights are pretty cheap still. Hopefully, we're going for it.
That's great. Sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Much more my speed than Burning Man.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of it's for people like me who leave everything to the last minute. All you got to do is just get on the plane.
Love it.
There's so many options to we're doing like we're doing a pre-party in this. There's an amazing little restaurant on the beach. They just built a big deck. So it's it's literally like you're dancing on a tiny little beach on a deck with palm trees, looking at the moon, the stars. It's so
Wow. That's killer.
and they're good, and the owners, they get it, and they want it's like it's low season for them, and it's just amazing that it's beautiful down there. It's like I come from England. It's like I played a whole season with Calvin Harris in Vegas at Wet Republic. It was 100 to 120 degrees.
Yeah.
Down there, it's like in the desert. Down there, it's like it's going to be 90 degrees.
Yeah.
It's 80s at the moment. It could hit 90s, maybe a little bit more, but. You've got golf carts.
But there's water. And,
you can do, and they let you can,
Totally.
you can, every, if you stay at the resort, you can get golf carted around. If you rent, if you go onto VBO or Airbnb, there's basically 16 complexes where you can rent these like luxurious, kind of, condo buildings. They all come with golf carts. So you can just go down there and just fill it, 6, 8 people on a golf cart, fill it up with beer. Drive down, then we're doing pre-parties and post-parties there.
Oh, that's great.
And then when the festival is on the Friday and the Saturday on June 30th and July 1st. It's out the gate, so you just shuttle down there. But yeah, for me, it's paradise. It's like we just added the one thing that it was always missing. So, everything, we're all in, we're paid, everything's covered, now we just, need to kind of put the word out to some VIPs and.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. I'm going to be traveling, but I'm going to come next year. That's, so make sure you do it again.
We will. This is the first one of many.
That sounds like perfect to me. But when the Fire Festival thing blew up, what were your calls like the next day? Like, did that affect what you're doing?
It's very, very, very different situation, and we definitely they kind of it's not easy to go to an island, and do what they wanted to do, especially they ran into legal financial problems or whatever, and then they obviously came in. The icing on the cake was that they had weather problems. When they finally did start building. For us, it's kind of everything's been, we're very cautious, and it's taken us a long time to build it. Like I said, we're getting so much support from the artists because they feel like they're being taken care of. We're putting them up in a 5-star resort. The yacht club is amazing. The artists get served dinner in this beautiful platform area looking over the marina. They get golf carted to the stage. The stage is great. The sound is great. We actually, the reason we found the space, there's never been a music venue, there's never been a musical festival or anything at the space, because Punta Mita is so quiet and it's it's just a touristy place. But they had a political event there for 6,000 people.
Oh wow!
So and they pull and we're basically using the same kind of their production house, and the boatmaster, the guy that owns the yacht club is very much a part of the festival, and he's been helping us out a lot. So, I don't really think that, the weather...
Sure.
You can get a little bit of rain. We're putting kind of half covers up over the stage.
Yeah.
Full cover over the stage, actually. Half covers up over the VIP area. We could get 10, 20-minute showers. It's not going to
I think it's fine. I mean, I've been to Tulum,
Yeah.
and it's raining in the festival, and it's fine. So
Yeah. So I think everything. We seems like we've
that's great.
we've looked to we're trying to look at everything. You never know, but yeah, and we just we're not in it to make money either. We're doing it because we love Punta Mita, and we love music, and it's
so cool.
Kind of like and we were lucky that we put we put some early bird. We announced the lineup in Mexico, and we basically sold 1,000 tickets in Guadalajara like that.
Fantastic.
For like an early bird special. Then we pulled it.
Nice.
It looks like we've got a really nice kind of. We've got these. We've got like really cool like kind of. We've got some Mexico City people coming in too, but we got like cool hipsters coming in. To kind of GA to fill the floor and. Yeah. And then it'll be like a really interesting mix of But online sales are like people from, you know, Chicago and Seattle and San Francisco and San Diego are buying tickets now because it's they've got direct flights. And then we'll
That's
have,
great.
you know, like a mixture, really nice, like kind of LA VIP thing. So it should be cool. You know, we're not trying to, you know, all together. If we get 3,000 or 4,000 people through the door for each day, then we're super happy. You know.
Love it. What? So how do people get tickets?
RHAFest.com, RHAFEST.com.
Nice.
You know, we're just excited, and we want people to. We want it to be fun, and we want people to get down there. And if people, you know, we literally are just trying to cover costs for some of the production. We're definitely, you know, we're you know, we know we're going to lose money, but you know, who cares? You know.
Yeah, you'll get there. That's awesome. Well, I have a little lightning round that I want to do before they kick us out. But I have one last question before we get to that. I saw on your website you do some meditation. Is that?
I actually wake up every morning and I just do 10 minutes of headspace.
Yeah, me too.
And it's a game changer for me.
Love it.
And it's just with I find that it just connects everything and makes me a better person, a better dad, a better producer. And I'm not sure, you know, it's amazing. And my, you know, I was born Zen, born vegetarian. You know, my mother and father were forward thinkers and hippies. And I always kind of backed away from everything. And I used to kind of walk in from school at 11 with football boots, and my buddy and my mum would be like in a yoga position in the living room, and I'd be like so embarrassed, like, oh no, mum. But you know, it
comes back around.
Yeah, it comes back around. And I just found when I was we had the kids and I was juggling. I was literally like I was playing in Vegas every weekend, but then doing all these tours and playing all the time in New York, and I just got frazzled and I wasn't really thinking very clearly, and I just found that, you know, literally like the most basic form of meditation just was a game changer, you know. Also like reading kind of some self-help books about, you know, Tim Ferriss, you know, Tools for Titans, and you know, and 4-hour workout, 4-hour work week as well, you know, has been very, very helpful for a guy like me who's completely self-employed. And, you know, I have, you know, I have a lot of music supervision that I didn't really talk about before, but you know, there's I always have to do mixes and remote in, and you know, I've been doing all this stuff for Cartier the last couple of weeks, as well as I'm doing there's a Louis XIII has a 100-year aging process. So we've been doing Zen Freeman's Mastery of Time mixes, where you go and you enjoy like a dinner with the you know, with the cellar master from Louis XIII, he's only gonna make maybe 20 or 30 years of the bottle, you know. So the mix, when you start eating dinner, it starts off with like the first ever pop jazz song made in that was produced in 1917.
Wow.
And then the mix kind of go, and I kind of you know, I mix on 2 channels, you know, quite analogy. And then as you get into the 70s, the disco, you know, obviously the 50s and 60s, 70s, like the disco comes in, I start mixing, and then it goes through, and you know, there's like 90s R&B into the
so cool.
So stuff like that for me is there's, I don't know, I spend a ton of time actually like in the studio in the daytime. So that with gigs and touring and kids, I just needed to kind of try and center myself.
I love it. That's great. Okay, so if you can go back and give one piece of advice to your 18-year-old self, what would you say?
Everything. The fun thing about what happened to me is I never really was that ambitious or premeditated, and I just found myself in a situation where I completely love what I do for a living.
Yeah.
And I've got the best wife and the best kids, and you know, super happy. But it was now, you know, it was all quite organic. I think if I don't know. I think if I'd understood before, it was always a hobby, music, maybe. If you know, it is a business. You know, it's a cutthroat. You know, the music business is just the second you go into the commercial side of releasing music.
Of course,
it is what it is. Maybe, you know, it took me a while to kind of figure that out and understand that. Maybe I would have kind of given myself some you know, I should have read up on music business a little bit more than I did. But yeah, you know,
Fair enough.
But yeah, to answer then, part of why I like what I do so much is because it all happened so organically.
Yeah. Is there another talent that you've always wished you'd had more of?
What's something that I'm better at?
Something you wished you were better at?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I was a good athlete, and I was super happy with that. I think I kind of was always really interested in the arts and you know, playing musical instruments and dance, and you know, I used to kind of do a lot of gymnastics, and I was actually quite good at that. So I don't know, but yeah, I mean, I wish I'd kind of maybe studied and gone more into like the arts as opposed to like going into the, you know, the side of the, you know, what I ended up going into. And I really wish that I was, I could, you know, play piano and play guitar.
Oh yeah.
You know.
Nice. What so if I worked for you, if I was on your team, what's something I would hear you say over and over? Morning, evening.
It's funny now with technology now. It's like the team is kind of a lot more remote.
Sure.
Than, you know.
Yeah.
But it's interesting how you can get a lot of stuff done just by having a good, you know, good guy on PR and a good, you know, a good agent, a good manager, and then someone that does, you know, helps with, you know, social media and yeah, I don't know. I have a very very humble office at home, you know. But it's, you know, it's pretty proactive.
Yeah. Who would you be most excited to learn as a fan of yours? It's funny how I don't know, you kind of never really, you always kind of think you're faking it till you make it, you know, and then, but I mean, I don't know, I've been really kind of quite proud when people that I've really looked up to and have asked for my advice about stuff, you know, which I think is, and that's been, you know, like, I mean, I had dinner with Pete Tong a few weeks ago, and he kind of asked me, he asked me some advice about songs that kind of broke, EDM broke in America, because he wasn't obviously here as much as I was, and you know, he has the orchestra tour that he does, so he kind of asked me some advice on that, and I just thought, like, I mean, this is the guy that, That's
it's weird
cool.
how it, you know, full circle, it kind of, you know, this is probably the guy why I actually started buying records, you know, and wanting to DJ, so.
That's awesome. What's your favorite city to travel to?
Oh God, there's so many. I mean, to be honest, I love getting booked. When I get booked to play in London, it's so great because I get to go back and see the family. And
I bet.
I mean, you know, I just got booked to play a gig in Melbourne, but in August, so it's like it's not the best time. It's the the coldest part, you know. But it is a great city, and I do love Sydney. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, anything if I get booked to play in Italy, I'm always super happy, especially if it's summer and it's anything to do with the Amalfi Coast or you know, Barcelona. It'd be amazing. One of my favorite places in the world is I got booked to play at the Amenora Resort in Turks and Caicos, and for me, it's like. Sometimes it's like the opposite of a city for me because I'm so crazy. Sometimes, like when I get booked to go to like an island or something, it's amazing.
Yeah. Okay. Last thing, we're out of time. Favorite DJ?
Oh God, at the moment, who is it? Favorite show, favorite DJ.
Sure.
I mean, at the moment, like I'm kind of digging. Like I played. Last year, I played at White Ocean at Burning Man, and Bob Moses just played a live show in like a dust storm. But
cool.
I mean, you know, actually one of them was DJing, and you know, and Tom was playing guitar and singing. But they had such a good turnout. They blew me away. You know, like I'm kind of loving like Rufus at the moment as well.
Cool.
Like that kind of thing. I don't know. It's fun. You know. I mean, I love at the moment. I was, you know, I supported Calvin Harris for like over a year at Hakkasan.
Yeah.
It was amazing just to see that reaction that when you make the song and you play it, you get that kind of reaction that, you know, is amazing to see. And now I'm at XS and I play a lot. I support the Chainsmokers, and man, those guys are popular. You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
You know.
Zen, thanks for doing this, man. I appreciate you being here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I'm bummed I'm going to miss the festival, but
Next year,
absolutely, and we'll do what we can to support it and come back. I'd love to hear after the festival how it goes.
Yeah,
thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was Zen Freeman on Rebel Radio. Great interview. I hope you enjoyed it. Leave us a comment. You can find us on iTunes or SoundCloud or Twitter or Facebook or YouTube. Pretty much anywhere you look, we're at Rebel Radio Net. Leave us a comment, a review. Tell us what you like, what you want to hear next, all that good stuff. And most importantly, come back next week for more Rebel Radio. Peace.